Hello boys and girls, after running few keys on the HPAW on the PTR running some M+ dungeons, I'm here to share some of my impressions, and they're actually quite positive. Not much has changed since Season 2 on the PTR. The biggest thing to mention is that the old 4-piece tier set bonus, which basically empowered our Holy Prism, is now gone, so basically Holy Prism is also gone as well. That means that you have one less button to generate holy power, and also you lack a big button to heal everybody up if you cast the Holy Prison on an enemy. That was actually quite nice to have. What we're getting instead is reduced cooldown to Daybreak, which is not bad. It's more healing, more mana, and then you get some benefits of casting Holy Shock or basically triggering Glimmer of Lights on the same targets that you already have them active on. Now honestly, I didn't play around this tier set, I was just pressing my buttons and I still got some passive value out of it. It did about 8% of my healing overall in dungeons, which is I guess comparable to the rest of the tier sets. But the good part is that it also works as a damaging and attacking ability, and you can get some damage output from the Holy Reverberation as well. So I think that this is actually going to be a huge plus to the Paladin M+ next year, simply because you're going to get more damage because of the damaging component of your tier set bonus, and we also get Light's Hammer back in place of the Holy Prison, which overall I guess is going to do more DPS, not so much healing as the Holy Prison. But overall it's probably not a bad trade because we have enough healing buttons whatsoever at this point. You can probably hear some comments around that the 4-piece bonus, which is the 15-second reduction to Daybreak, is quite boring, which in fact is actually true, but the rest of the design is actually not bad because you have the choice of using the tier set bonus for damage or for healing. On top of that, the Holy Reverberation currently is not scaling with Master, which we don't know if it's intended or it's a bug, but if it's fixed, it's actually going to do even more than it's doing right now. So overall, the Holy Paladin is going to be exactly where it was back in Season 2. The changes they made based on buffing the single target healing opposed to the AoE healing, they actually buffed the Holy Light and the Flash of Light spells of the Holy Paladin. And those are spells that we don't use that much, only to basically proc the infusion of light procs. So you can argue that basically the Paladin didn't get what the other healers got, which is buffing their main single target healing abilities by a lot. But even then the Holy Paladin felt better to play than the Shaman, because you still get your Holy Shocks, you still get your Word of Glory, the playstyle doesn't change that much with the Light's Hammer, and you still have all those cooldown buttons to press when something goes wrong, not even to mention all the utility that the class brings to an M+ dungeon. So at the end of the day, the verdict is that Holy Paladin is probably going to remain the meta for Season 3, and it's not because the throughput and the output of healing that you can do, it's simply because the amount of cooldowns and utility that you bring to the dungeon. All of that remains the same. You always have a button to press. You have Divine Toe, you have Daybreak, you have Tears Deliverance, you have Hand of Divinity, you have your beacons no matter what talent you're using there. And because all of these are short cooldowns, you're guaranteed to have one of those buttons available if you need to press it. And then on top of that, you have Wings, you have Aura Mastery to help your group. And those are the healing buttons. When we start talking about utility, you have Bubble, you have Blessing of Protection, Blessing of Freedom, Blessing of Sacrifice, Lay on Hands, Short Interrupt, Hammer of Justice, and as you can see the list just goes on and on and on. The TLDR version of what I'm trying to say is, unless they start pruning some of the skills of the Holy Paladin, which I really hope they don't because the playstyle right now is amazing, it's not going to be pushed out of the meta of M+, simply because it brings so much more to the table compared to the other healers. In fact, playing Holy Paladin feels so good, both in Season 2 and on the PTR, that I'm actually hoping the solution to this problem would be to buff the rest of the healers to feel as the Holy Paladin when they play them. As right now they bring so much less utility than the Holy Paladin for M+, and also you can run out of buttons to press there, you can run out of cooldowns because their cooldowns are longer and the amount they have is just less. And I've talked about this before, but the only good thing for healers that happened in Season 2 was the Holy Paladin rework, so I really hope that they take some lessons out of that and they rework and give the other classes more tools to work with instead of nerfing the Holy Paladin and reducing the fun that we had playing it in Season 2. As for raids, I didn't get to test the HPAW in raid, but I think it's going to remain very strong there for a couple of reasons. The tier set bonus, although it's probably tailored a little bit more to M+, is still going to be quite viable in raid. And then, what Blizzard is basically pushing to right now is to make people spot heal in raid instead of using AoE buttons. And the Paladin is actually amazing into spot healing with the Holy Shocks, and then you can always use Word of Glory instead of Light of Dawn if you need to. So at the end of the day, it might not be the king in raid, but it's still going to be one of the viable classes to heal with in bigger group content. So we can say at the end that the future for Holy Paladin actually looks to be quite bright. Some things to add to this, I already mentioned it in my Shaman first impressions videos, but in M+, there are a lot of situations where you have to actually move and heal because of pushbacks, because of swirlies on the ground, whatever it is. So this is one advantage that the Holy Paladin is going to have, let's say, compared to a Resto Shaman, because for you that's going to be quite easy. And then there are also a lot of diseases that you can dispel as a Holy Paladin. They actually hurt a lot when I was playing the Shaman. So those mechanics are also going to put you one step forward compared to other healers. There were a few curses that I was able, for example, to dispel on the Shaman, but I was actually being able to heal through them very easily on the Paladin, although I couldn't dispel them. And yes, there might be some personal bias here, but it feels like when it comes to dispelling, you'd rather be a Paladin than a Shaman. With all of that said, of course, keep in mind that this is the PTR, there's probably 2 months until the next patch, so there's going to be a lot of tuning, there's going to be a lot of changes, and everything that I'm saying could be completely false in several weeks' time. So you might want just to keep an eye on Wowhead and this channel, as I'll try to keep everything up to date with the newest information that we get as we get closer to the release date. Thanks for watching, I'll see you in the next video, until then, happy healing and take care.